don't be scared by any of these tools. Like one of the things that, we teach anybody that comes to us is figure out how to leverage the tools to make you better. It doesn't matter if it's AI or, look at the rate of technology and the compound effect. This is not the end. There's a lot more coming that we don't even see right now.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Uncensored Direct Marketing. Today I have a treat for you. We have Rohan Sheth. He's the CEO at GrowRev. GrowRev has helped thousands of very large online companies grow through online content and traffic purchasing and so forth. They create funnels, they buy traffic, they help with online content creation, pretty much full stream of everything that you would need online. GrowRev has worked with ClickFunnels with Russell Brunson, Mastermind.com, the Mikkelsen twins, Mikkelsen, and pretty much everybody who's been in the online industry for at least 10 years or more has worked with Rohan and his team. So Rohan, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, we have so many things to talk about, and I have a slew of questions that I've been just thinking for the last week preparing for this interview. But I'm curious, can you tell us a little bit about GrowRev and your path and like what got you to where you are today?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, taking, the last essentially what is 2 decades of my life to kind of come to this point. I came from the direct sales background, started at the age of 14, 15, very, very young through high school. Eventually got into door-to-door sales, did that for 2.5 years, built the company being the number one producer in Canada. Yes, I'm from Canada as well. So is Maria. So this is an even better podcast. And then eventually I would get poached by some of the biggest direct sales organizations throughout North America. Eventually got so good and bored at the same time of doing one-to-one selling that I was like, what's the next best option? And then someone gave me a Dan Kennedy book, and I started studying Dan Kennedy and Jay Abraham and all the, the OGs of our industry. And this is before like internet marketing really became a big thing. And I was like, okay, what is this whole thing? And this is like running through blogs and doing like, old school traffic things most people wouldn't even understand today. Started doing affiliate marketing, transitioned that into, Google. I started doing Google ads. Family and friends started reaching out to me like, hey, how do we turn this into, can you help this Google thing that you're doing online and help me do it? And I was like, sure. And I just kind of did that. Couple of friends, family, and kind of all that good stuff, turned that into what is an agency. Didn't even know the term agency when I first started. Didn't even know what an agency was or existed, like never. I just thought I was like, I'm just helping people. That just kind of over the years spiraled into, what is the beast is what people are recognized as GrowRev today. Working with some of the biggest names in the industry, being behind some of the biggest launches, the biggest New York Times bestseller launches, etc. And on track right now this year, we'll probably manage around $150 million in paid advertising. And that's across multiple different avenues and multiple different networks. Yeah. And it's become one of the things that now I just like look at offers and I'm like, how can I scale the shit out of you? Because that's what I want to do.
Well, what the awesome thing is, and something that, I've been in the industry for over 15 years and, agencies come and go really quickly. You know what I mean? Like it's somebody who has lasting power like you and GrowRev and so forth, and just keeps working with these huge names and so forth. Obviously, we have a lot of lessons to learn. So I kind of building on this and talking about your business and so forth. I mean, the new kid on the block, what everybody's talking about is AI and, how AI is going to transform this industry. Like, just to position it a little bit, like for myself, I'm, testing some AI content, whether it's on more on the blog side right now, less on the media side, but it's just unlimited amount of content. So in a world where we can now create, 10, 20 times more content than we were creating a year or two ago, like how can somebody find their voice? How can somebody get following? And what are you guys doing in this, with AI right now?
For me, there's multiple things that we're doing with AI. Some fun things that we're going to launch. And as much as I would love to talk about on this podcast, I can't really talk about it on the podcast, but essentially we're going to automate as much of the marketing as we possibly can, right? From building brand decks to writing ebooks, where it's like, with a bunch of prompts, it's spitting out, 250,000 word books in a matter of like 30 minutes. Like that's the kind of stuff that we're testing and kind of going down that route. Brand decks where private equity companies are paying us a lot of money. There's because obviously for private equity on those world where it's like, hey, we want to sell this company, but the company doesn't have no avatar, no voice, no brand, no nothing. We'll put it into our AI platform that we're building and kind of spit it out. But That's just such a high level. Now, one of the things that we're doing at a lower level, kind of that everybody can do using simple platforms like ChatGPT, is pretty much going down the road of, automating our content. So it's like, there's also AI platforms for not only content and scripts and everything else. You can just feed it the right prompts, and there's tons of different offers and people that are smart people out there that have written prompt. You could pay like $99 and get like prompt courses and kind of understanding how to write prompts, because the biggest thing with AI is understanding how to just give it the right thing so you get the right output, the right input to get the right output.
Okay.
And one of the things that we're doing now is, with my social team since November of last year. So if anybody follows me on social, they'll see, since any of the content that you're seeing posted that was just me, kind of like the quote unquote cliche Hormozy style content, for some reason it's become Hormozy style. I've not recorded a single one since November of last year. I went 3 weeks and I recorded 700 of them in 3 weeks, in a short period of time.
700?
And the reason I did that, 700 in 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I did that was because, I knew with what we were playing with AI, I'm like, I need the focus here so it doesn't take away from my content time. That I was like, I need to go all in. We're not going to use all 700, but we just went and recorded all of like whatever hooks that we could come up with in the team. But I knew going into this year with, ChatGPT was still kind of picking up storm, and then obviously this year just took off. We're like, what can we do with it? Today, we're now getting geared up to do long form scripts through AI, through ChatGPT. And what I mean by long form scripts, like long form videos for YouTube content, and then also pushing out short form content. Now, the easiest thing for me to do is because of, time, and everybody's in a different world. Today, if you told me, hey, go record 115 a day, I probably could, but to do the volume I did before, I'd say go after yourself. I don't have the time to commit to this. So I was like, okay, how do we make this the most efficient? So with AI, what we're doing is we're building out long form content for YouTube, for example, taking those long form videos, cutting them up into short form content and syndicating them through multiple different channels. Obviously with Instagram, you got Reels, with TikToks, with YouTube, you got YouTube Shorts. Snapchat is being a big one right now that we're also going back into because traffic there's been pretty good, and pushing them all the way back. So we're taking one piece of content, using AI to produce the content. I'm obviously recording it. That's the only thing that's manual, which is my face and kind of my voice. And then we're having AI cut it up into shorts, because there's tools that you can do that, and it automatically spits it out and like spits out the different cameras. And then we're just syndicating it for growth. The biggest thing right now is going to be speed and quality, with obviously as much quantity as you can push. And by quantity, I don't mean how many pieces you can push, but how many platforms you can have syndicating the content for you. So that's the biggest thing that we're focusing on right now. We are starting an entire, at the time of this call or this podcast being recorded, essentially, we are starting an entire case study around this, because we've seen it happen a few times already for people that we've kind of put the plan in play. It was like an idea that I had one day over smoking a cigar and a couple beers and drinking a couple beers in my backyard. I was like, this could work if this did correctly. And we tested it with some big influencers, and it blew them up. Up. I was like, okay, well, if it blew up big influencers, the big caveat that most people would look at is like, oh, they already had a following. Like that's the what's the one common thing that people could blame it at? I was like, okay, well, I have a following, but nowhere near as active as I was 3-4 years ago. But what if I just started a whole new account and kind of built it from scratch and kind of went down that route? Like just made it this, I don't need more projects on my plate, but made it this an unnecessary project that I was just like, I need to prove this theory through. Okay. And from what we're seeing, we're only about 2 weeks into this, and it's already paying dividends pretty quickly. So that's kind of what we're doing with AI. So you're
creating, just to understand, you're creating a new kind of YouTube channel or new social channels, everything?
It's going to be so all new social channels. We're the only one that we're keeping live is my Instagram account and my TikTok account. But we're not really even pushing. The way we're doing it with mine, so we're doing 2 separate case studies. One, we're going to be pushing directly to one of my Instagram main accounts just to have that engagement kind of pick up and kind of obviously go to a whole different level. And then all the other ones are pushing to a brand new YouTube channel, just to see, because one of the things that we're all, and that's just right now. I'm not saying it's going to be something we do even 2 weeks from now. And then from there, what ends up happening, what we're going to do is we just want to see, because most platforms, and if you understand the social platform, because I built a company on a social platform that ended up in a long, crazy lawsuit with Facebook and stole it from me, and the whole different, that we can talk about that if we want to, is you got to understand how they like pushing out of their platform, right? No one likes it. but it's like there's always things, as long as you're feeding it good, it's willing to feed you good back. And it's like, as long as the content is really, really good, it doesn't have a problem shipping that link out. So it's like Instagram hates shipping to YouTube. Like, it just does not like sending that out there. But if we get enough volume throughout a reel, I think the volume is going to beat the link push anyway. So that's kind of where we're testing which way we're going to go. And in 2 weeks from now, we're going to probably decide, are we going all to an Instagram page and then I'm going to use my story content to push it out to YouTube? Or are we going to just use all of the content directly to push to YouTube?
Are you using any AI tools for kind of gathering data or intelligence? Like, I know there's obviously a lot of AI tools for, content creation in the sense of like writing scripts, editing and so forth. But is there anything that like really high level that can give you good data?
I'm sure my team has some. Okay. Because we're very, very focused on that right now, like heavily focused, to the tune of we're buying 2 major domains that are one-word domains in the .ai space right now for a very hefty amount. Like, that's how heavy we're going into this. Okay. I don't know what they're using. I just know where my focus is at. But knowing my team, probably, because everything we do is data driven, right? Even on our advertising side and the media buying side, everything is data driven.
I mean, that the interesting thing that you mentioned is, you're starting a YouTube channel from scratch, and obviously you're leveraging AI and so forth. But in this day and age, obviously with YouTube just having so much content uploaded, and now with the AI tools making it easier to upload content, do you think there's it's still possible to grow a YouTube channel organically and get followers and so forth? Do you have to use AI? Like, what's your I guess your best advice?
Absolutely not. I still see, I'm obsessed. It's funny because as obsessed I am with organic, I think I leverage, and I've come to terms with it, because my obsession with organic content is just because I want to see what the content creators are doing and how I can leverage and paid. Okay. Because of the fact that my main company spends hundreds of millions of dollars. So if organic's taken off, there's an angle there that we can use for that. Now, like, there's so many influencers right now that are still blowing up in the organic space. It started during COVID. Look at just like, if you put like one of the things, actually, I hired a data analyst just to kind of look at. I wanted to do essentially a search. I was like, I just kind of gave him my vision, and this is what I said. I said from March of 2020. I want to see channels that were below 10,000 subscribers on YouTube to where they ended up in March of 2022. Just a 2-year sample size, the ones that were consistent, because there's a whole data set of people that went through COVID, whether it was YouTube, whether it was TikTok, whether it was Instagram, that just became massive influencers during that time and phase because they just put content out, right? Like, one of my close friends in the health space that lives here in Vancouver, went from literally almost nobody on YouTube to today being interviewed by some of the biggest names in the health space specifically, and has done over $150 million in sales in 2 years because of COVID. And the conversation with him was the reason what sparked it. And I was like, if he's done it, who else has done it? And it all comes down to quality of content organically. Now, obviously with me, it's like, I don't have time to sit down and record. And he was doing 2 massive videos a day. So he's doing quality and quantity. But given what I've built, I don't have time to do that every single day. So I'm playing the opposite side, as I'm doing quality, but syndication through quantity. But if you're just starting off and like, that's what you want to do, YouTube's here to stay. I don't see YouTube going anywhere. As an advertising platform, I want more creators to show up on the platform, because then that gives us more places to be marketing to and, spending more advertising on. So that's kind of the play that I'm looking at. So yeah, I've been weirdly obsessed with YouTube in a way of just like researching and understanding the psychology around it versus actually taking the time. And I'm just taking this project on just because I want to prove the theory more than anything for myself, just to be like, I did it, versus just being like, oh, wouldn't it be cool kind of situation.
Well, for sure. Just like coaches, after a while, a coach has to go back and do it again because things change, right? You can't be a coach for 10 years for something that you learned 10 years ago. So in terms, you mentioned, your friend with the health space and so forth. Do you think that it's the same type of growth and the same type of growth is available for B2B businesses, like, for example, coaches that are looking to get other businesses and so forth? Or is there a very different strategy between B2C and B2B on YouTube?
I think it's no matter what. I think it's just the biggest thing that, like, I know for a fact, no matter who I talk to, what influencer I talk to, is the two metrics that I know that the ones, and I could be wrong because there's so many different influencers out there, and someone could be listening to this and be like, you're completely wrong, you're an idiot. But the ones that I know that are in the millions of subscribers very, very closely, one is the click through, so the CTR number, and what's their watch time. That's all, like the two things that some of the biggest guys obsess over. And the reason being is if you can get someone to click a video and get them to watch a significant amount of the video, YouTube's algorithm is only going to favor your content more and more and more.
Okay. So, I mean, now you're talking about short form content kind of leading into big content. How does a business, whether it's B2C or B2B, like, I mean, we have, with Direct Paynet, I work with a lot of supplements, coaches, and kind of, direct response businesses. How can these businesses leverage short form content to reach a specific audience, the audience that's actually going to, want to watch more and so forth? Like, are you doing it, putting something on social that's going on to like a longer form YouTube, or what's your best strategy for right now?
So I'm going to tell you exactly what I did, and not what I'm doing, what I did and what's kind of paid off. So what I'm doing is something that you guys can all watch and see how it comes out. And it could be an absolutely fail of a project and be like, oh, well, I learned something out of this entire thing. But what I've done over the last 18 months has been pretty insane. So when I went through the whole situation with Facebook, they took my account down on Instagram. I was much bigger following, came back and it kind of just ruined it. Engagement was trash the whole 9 years. So it's like, essentially I looked at my team and I'm like, do we start a whole new account or do we just try to revitalize this account and bring it back to life? Yeah. And we agreed upon just doing it in a way where just revitalizing the account. I don't know why, but sometimes we just decide to make our lives more difficult for no reason. And we did. And we committed to a year of just putting content on Instagram every single day, multiple times a day for most days as well, but consistently once a day, even through the weekends, and not having a single call to action. There's not a single call to action on any of my content for over a year.
Okay.
Right. And this is where I think most coaches or early stage entrepreneurs get too hung up on the fact of, they want to put some content out there and how do I monetize this immediately? Well, you're not playing in the game of when Instagram stories first came out or when Reels first came out, any of this stuff, when the platforms were just, when TikTok came out and was blown up during COVID, like any of that stuff. Now it's a time of like, just keep feeding the algorithm, make the algorithm your best bloody friend, and then eventually start going down that route, because the algorithm is going to learn and see your content over time, and it's going to notice that you're keeping people on platform. And I talked about this earlier in the podcast. Yeah. And then from there, you can start pushing. And literally, still today, we don't have a single call to action in any of our content. We will be launching call to actions in our content right now. The only CTA in my entire profile is if someone clicks my bio or clicks my profile and goes to my bio, that's the only way they're going to see a call to action. Nothing else. Doing that has gotten me today offers from companies up to like $50,000 a month just to sponsor my content.
Wow. Right.
Like just to have it like place, like talk about it, not even like as an indirect ad. To put it into my content, I just won't do it. That's just not my ethos for doing that. It's like, I don't need to take the advertising dollars from someone. It's like, go put it in ads and pay my other company and I'll do it there. But it's like, if I'm going to do it, I want to be behind a product, not just saying yes to something that I need to say yes to.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, if there's no CTAs and it's over a year, you're doing this, you're just trying to grow the audience. Are you saying that it would take at least a year or more? Like, do you have?
I don't see it taking a year. Mine, because obviously I was up against every possible shit show on planet Earth with the platform because of what happened prior to.
Yeah.
So it's like, I knew they were going to make my life 10 times more difficult, but they also don't know the type of person I am. I'm extremely stubborn and I'll just keep going till I win. That's just kind of how I am as a person. But, it's like you can start today and with Reels, for example, have nothing on your account, brand new, clean, completely clean account, and keep pushing and push. I don't see it being a year, but you can get to a point where you build massive momentum very, very quickly. But the momentum is only going to come from how consistent you are and how disciplined you are, making sure that you're feeding that platform.
So do these platforms like consistency in terms of like, if we get like very strategic, like should you post every day at 11 or every day at 11 and at 4 and at 7? Like, do you have to get that mathematical?
I've had that argument with my team multiple times. Yeah. On YouTube, I know for a fact, they've proven me to show that it's like specific day, specific time, consistently having that. Okay. Like even if it's once a week, stick to once a week at that specific day, that specific time. They've proven that out to me. The rest of them, I am yet to see one that makes sense. Like, I don't know, but we just have a time that a time that we've stuck to.
Sorry. Are they probably like, I know Facebook and Instagram and obviously all the rest, they change their algorithms often enough. Like, I mean, I leave ads on purpose. I don't have any ad blockers because I like to see what people are advertising and so forth. And I find it odd. Like, I feel like I can predict Facebook stock based on
the ads.
What I see on the ads. I'm like, oh, they must be getting desperate. So things are not doing so well. And then literally like a week later, it's like Facebook earnings go down and stuff like that. So it's funny, but I feel like their algorithms also probably change in consequence to how people are, their numbers, basically their financials. If their financials are good, they become more restrictive. If their financials are bad, they just kind of open the loop and let just pretty much anything go, right?
Well, yeah, currently, like even, we've got some connects inside of Facebook. I know Facebook just laid off, I think it was earlier or at tail end of last week where they just laid off an entire department again, right? So it's like, it's just going to be really dependent. And you nailed it by looking. If you can figure out looking at how we'll have ads that'll just get disapproved for ages, and all of a sudden they're approved for no damn reason. And it's just like they're getting desperate. They've opened up space for us to run this. And you can tell, and it's very, very cliche, but yeah, it just kind of comes down to that. And obviously, I don't know what's going to happen here over the next 6 to 8 months. It's very, very uncertain. We're just pushing as hard as we possibly can until, things are as good as they are.
I mean, now we talked a little bit about short form content and so forth. If we go back to long form content and YouTube, like YouTube, for me, I'm also obsessed with YouTube. It's one of my things. Like, I really want to grow on YouTube. Like, we've had the podcast for a while, and I'm like, okay, we have to try to crack this YouTube nut, because it feels like, at least for my business, obviously it's a business to business direct pay net. We work with other businesses and we get the merchant processing. So it's a very niche type thing. We're not looking to get 1 million views or anything like that. But when people watch us on YouTube, they're more engaged. We get more leads. It just, every other platform, like I can get, 50, 60K views on a reel, 0 leads. Then I get a video on YouTube, 150 views, 2 or 3 leads. I'm like, look at that. So it just constantly proves the theory that YouTube is, it's a beast in terms of getting people to convert and so forth. I'm just wondering, based on that and the trends on YouTube, is YouTube, like, I hear all these wacky theories on YouTube. So I want to get it straight from you, what you think. Is YouTube a place you should put long form content? Is it a place where, when I say long form, I mean like 20, 30 minutes plus, or, 100%. A lot of people are saying 10, 12 minutes is the max. And other people are saying, stick to like 1-2 minute videos, how to step-by-steps, and just kind of guide people. What's your best advice for let's say somebody like me, or people who are kind of struggling to crack the YouTube nut?
So based on the 2 things that I mentioned earlier in this podcast, and this is from talking to multiple influencers, is click-through rate, and watch time. So we are very, very, very focused with all of our long form content, and everything that we're building is just around those 2 metrics. And that's what this entire case study that we're building is around that. We will be doing long form content, and I mean like north of 15 minutes, like pieces of content, like face to camera, almost like a VSL, but not really. For most people that don't know what a VSL is, video sales letter, but kind of going down that route, and then really aggressively testing thumbnails, to figure out what we've got a range of what the click-through should be, because some people are in automotive and some people are in health and some people are in entrepreneurship. So it's like, we're looking at what it is and the numbers that we're sticking to. And then we're going to obviously base what our watch time is. So, and building that. That's all I'm focusing on right now. Everybody, it's like going to a different agency on an advertising platform is just like, this advertising platform is better. It's just like, what's not better? It's just like, what are you willing to be focused on? I'm just going on data. I'm just going based on what I've been told.
Okay. Well, I mean, I find it interesting because, what you're saying right now is watch time. So watch time is obviously increased by having longer videos. If I have a 30-second video, I mean, how long, somebody's going to watch 20 or 30 seconds. So obviously what I'm getting from this is the longer, the better, obviously not keeping the content engaging, but let's say a 30 or 40 minute video, you would do that on YouTube right now?
100%.
Oh, nice.
There's 100%. We're testing. We're one of the VSLs I know that I'm looking at recording. I was just reading, just skimming through the script the other day for it. I'd be surprised this thing's not like 35 to 45 minutes long. Like by the time I'm done recording this video, right? And that's kind of what it is.
What's the percentage in general you think is a good percentage of watch time for let's say a 30-minute plus video?
I'd have to look at the numbers and kind of come back to you on that. But I'd be, well, the biggest thing is what did my team say to me when they did like our data team? I think they said we want them to watch at least 40% of the video.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure is what they mentioned.
That's a hefty chunk.
Out of 30 minutes, if they're there for call it 10, right? You're getting close to that number. And then it's from there, it's obviously going to have diminishing returns, but it's going to pull that audience. And then obviously the higher we can get the click through, the more we're going to get people to watch the rest of the video.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, in terms of content, and I'm kind of going back a little bit to the beginning just to bring up a topic about content. You mentioned, posting consistently and a lot of content and so forth. Is there such a thing as like too much content, or overproducing content or over posting? Like, can you ever have enough, or is your kind of mantra just post as much content as you have?
I just think just post. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. If you've got content, like I've got content right now that we're repurposing that never even got out. But I shot in like 2021. During COVID, during that whole craziness of the lawsuit stuff. That never got out. We're just repurposing it, bringing it back to life, making it like meme content around it, just posting. Like, what's the worst? Like, if you're gonna commit to content, just push. Like, who cares? Like, that's just my theory around it. On the short form side. On the long form side, like I said, it's very different. So it's like there's two strategies that we're trying to see how do we cross mingle it. That's the reason why we're creating literally just case study. Like we're gonna be tracking day over day, week over week, month over month. How do we cross mingle the both of them? Because if we can get volume for views, but then we can get on the short form. But then if we can get, high amount of stick rate, that's going to build our community. That's going to build the people that I want to truly sell to and share what I have to offer. That's really what it's going to come down to.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, I guess I do agree with that. If people want to hear from you, they want to hear from you, right? So, if you don't like somebody or you don't want to follow them, you just unfollow them and you get them off your feed. So why not, right? I always struggle with that because we have a lot of content. I'm like, are we doing too much? Are we annoying and so forth? But I know a lot of email copywriters and they say the more you email, the more sales you're going to make. So I figure it's the same type of
same theory. And right? I was literally going to correlate that back to some of the stuff that we do on email. We hammer email because at the end of the day, it's like the more we email them, at the end of the day, either they're going to buy something or they're going to unsubscribe. And guess what? I want them to unsubscribe off our list because it's cleaning them out anyways. We don't have to sit there and worry about it. It's the same thing on the social. If you just look at social the way you look at email, it's the same essentially methodology and psychology. So
it all comes full circle, I guess. In terms of, there's a lot of coaches and a lot of people who are trying to attract different types of clients. I hear a lot of people who are closers and getting closers and so forth. How do you attract the client that you want? Like, what's your methodology for attracting the best clients?
It's gotten to a point where right now it's like, the funniest, like we're literally about to finally launch a paid advertising acquisition channel for ourselves at GrowRev. I've had this company now as a brand. GrowRev has been around since 2018. The company has been around almost 10 years. I could tell you less than $10,000 has been spent on acquisition.
Wow.
And the reason being on client acquisition. And the reason being is because we were very, very, very diligent and very picky on who we wanted to work with because we knew we could get the results. The results spoke for itself. That turned into its own referral source. And then, finding partners like yourself that, hey, it's like, these are the type of people that I want to work with. If they're willing to really invest in what their growth, we'll work with them. But even through our sales process, like whether it's me or my business development team, when we go through that sales process, like we're very black and white. This is the input. This is the output that we want. Maybe that's the reason why I like the AI game, because it's the same thing, input, output. If you're willing to put this in, we're willing to make sure you get this out on the back end. And because we're so direct with it, we end up attracting the clients that actually want to put in the work. Mostly will come to an agency hoping like they're just, the next best thing that's going to save their business, but we're not. You're just as much responsible for your business as much as I am. So we have to meet in the middle, and having that mentality and knowing that's the type of clientele we will only work with is the way we've attracted them.
Okay. So basically having a very clear sense of like who your customer is, a customer avatar, in order to keep speaking to them.
Correct. But not only the customer avatar, because we have our customer avatar, which is very designed to who we want to work with. But one extra step that I go into as well is on the behavior side of things. Like, how do they behave as a client? Right.
Okay.
Like the one question that I ask all of my clients, or my team will ask all of my clients, how many agencies have you worked with in the last 12 months? And if it's anything more than 2, it's almost a red flag, because they're just like, it's almost ready to know that, hey, they're just trying to get anything they can to try to make the agency be their Hail Mary, when it's like, no, there's 2 sides to this coin here.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, you can't just hand the reins over to your business to somebody else and say, well, these are the people who are going to take care of everything. I mean, they'll bring you the leads, but you got to know how to work your leads. You need to know who you're looking for. So that's, obviously a big part. It's a partnership. And, there's 2 sides of the coins with agencies, and there are a lot of great agencies like yours, but I would say there's a lot more bad agencies, at least in my experience. I've been around for a long time, and I've seen so many come and go, and you go to these big trade shows and they're like buying up banners and sponsoring. And then the next year they're gone. They're literally gone. You're like, who's that? So I mean, yeah, definitely. A lot of people, have gone to, hiring one-offs and so forth, which is, similar to what I do. Is I just hire talent and I try to put teams together and so forth, just so I can have, a congruent vision. But definitely, with your staying power and how long you've been here, and obviously all the stuff that you've grown and the people you've worked with, that obviously helps attract the right kind of person. I'm curious.
For sure.
On your thoughts of, like, we're talking about media and content creation and so forth. And during COVID, you mentioned, there's a lot of people who explode and so forth. Podcasts, like audio podcasts, like this one, that's when we launched. We launched during COVID, and things were doing very good. And then, after lockdown, things did start stagnating. And, we're trying to get great guests and so forth to continue upping the content. But in general, what are your thoughts on audio podcasts? How do they fit in to this whole kind of growth strategy?
I think no matter what, it's going to be the same thing as anything else, really. It's just consistency. Podcast definitely became a big, it was the big new squirrel kind of situation during COVID. Everybody and their dog was launching podcasts. But people like Joe Rogan's of the world have been podcasting for how long, and end up getting an insane offer to move over to Spotify. It's just a piece of marketing machine, really, because it's a piece of content. You can use that content. Obviously, yes, you use this specific one as audio, but even like the recorded video version, you could clip it, use it as top of funnel ads. If you really wanted to, you could clip it, use it on your Instagram. So there's multiple ways of leveraging it and kind of going down that route. So I definitely think there's a big market for it. I actually have, I launched a podcast, or was going to launch a podcast, and I think I have like 50 or 60 massive episodes already recorded.
Oh, nice.
I just was like, I'm not posting this. I was like, I'm not adding this big of a project, because I knew if it took off, I'd be like, oh, I got to commit to this again. And I was just like, I'm just not ready for a podcast right now. So I love doing other people's podcasts.
50 episodes, that's like a good year. I mean, you could even post once every 2 weeks, and then you have like 2 years of content. But do you find that the people listening to podcasts are the same people watching on YouTube? Like, are you finding these people kind of are following you different platforms? Like, in my experience, I feel like the podcast listeners are different than the YouTubers. I don't know much about the social. I have, people kind of managing that. I really focus on those 2 platforms myself to understand, but I do find that it's different audiences. It's not the same.
For sure. Like, even for myself, like, I love podcasts, absolutely love podcasts. When I'm driving around, I'm listening to podcasts majority of the time, right? But they're audio based. Very rarely do I sit down and watch a video podcast. Like, very rarely, right? But it's a very different, because for me, it's like, I'm obsessed. Also, one of the things I'm insanely obsessed with human behavior and why do people do certain things. And I think it just also comes down to behavioral patterns. I think a lot of audio podcasts are consumed in, net time or no extra time, where it's like you're driving around or having a shower or sitting on the train or whatever. Like, that's where audio podcasts being listened to. Whereas YouTube as a platform, I think, is there for education, which podcasts are education as well, but there's so many different types of education that you need the visuals and everything else to learn, or entertainment. Those are the 2 reasons why YouTube wins on that part of the world. Like, I watch YouTube videos, and I'll watch, sometimes I just want to watch stuff just to keep me entertained, or I'll just have it in the background on the couch while I'm sitting and working. And it's just like some random channel that I've just subscribed to because I like the way they showcase something. So the behavior patterns for YouTube long form versus podcast long form are definitely very different. different people.
I mean, I do. Maybe I'm aging myself. Like I prefer audio podcasts just because the same thing as you said. I'm driving somewhere, I'm doing an errand, and I'm just have it in my ear, and I'll just continue. I do find myself having a hard time committing to YouTube videos. I find like after 2 or 3 minutes of something, I usually myself use YouTube for information. Like I need to know how to do something, I'll just go and find
100%
it
education.
Education. But I always wonder. Like I mean, some of the younger people. I have a lot of younger people who listen and give me comments on YouTube and stuff like that. And I'm like, how it boggles my mind. And I think it's a little bit of a generational thing. Like I think the older generation, maybe they're okay with like kind of radio type style things where they're listening, but then younger people seem to just not want to do the audio podcast. They want to, that's just me kind of talking to some listeners and talking to different people. That's it's obviously very anecdotal. It's not based on hard numbers, but every time I talk to somebody who listens to me on the podcast, they're generally older. And then every time I listen to, or I talk to somebody who watches this on YouTube, they're generally younger. So it just feels like there's like a generational kind of gap. That's why we obviously try to do both, to have both. But it's interesting how different generations kind of see or want to consume content and media. But it just seems like, obviously there's so many, just kind of in closing, there's so many things that you can do now with AI, just providing unlimited content. Just one last question to kind of wrap things up. If somebody is just kind of getting started, or, kind of at the infancy of their business in terms of like content and so forth, there's a lot of people who make millions of dollars who have very little in terms of like content and social media and so forth. Yeah. It still exists. There's still businesses out there that don't, spend that much money or don't put too many resources in these things. What is your best kind of couple of tips to get started and start getting your audience? Is it video content? Is it written content? Or like, give us a couple of quick tips.
I'm bullish on, I like video. I personally like video. If you can get yourself in front of a camera, not only do I like video because one, people get to know you, like you, and trust you because they get to see you and kind of understand your voice, what you look like, what you kind of, your persona's like, and everything else. But also makes you really good as a communicator and as a speaker, right? Like, because if you can communicate through a camera and person technically on the other end is not watching until you publish the video, and then you see an outcome down the road come from it. Now you can understand what made that outcome happen. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get. The more you do it, the better you're going to find your voice. That's my bias on it. And I just love video for that reason. Whereas, some people are just really good writers. But if you ask me to sit down and write, a blog, I would rather walk myself out that window, because absolutely not. I'd be like, give me a phone and I'll record a piece of content in no time. But it also comes down to, what do you truly like? Just look at what you value inside of your life the most, and do what you think is going to give you the biggest fulfillment out of that. Just because I say video doesn't mean it has to be. But I still think everybody should be recording videos and being consistent with it, because it'll get them to be much, much, much better.
Yeah. And I think that's where everything's going. Even, Instagram and all these platforms are really promoting reels and videos and videos and videos and videos. So, I definitely think I agree with you. And the more, I watched some of the earlier content that I filmed like 2 years ago, and I'm like, holy crap, that was terrible, like cringe. But, but, you do get better and you ask better questions and so forth. So, the practice does help. And I think, just kind of wrapping it up in terms of the video side of things, I agree with you. And that's why I think we get way less views on YouTube than downloads on the audio podcast. But for some reason, the leads are coming from YouTube because people are seeing my face, they're trusting me, they're liking my voice and so forth. Obviously, we're in the financial industry, so people feel like, when they trust somebody, they can work with them and so forth. So I will keep fighting the good fight on YouTube and try to crack the nut. And I do, I thank you so much, Rohan, for your time. This was like super eye-opening. And actually for me, it's optimistic, because sometimes when these new tools like AI and all these things make things easier, a lot of people are like, oh, this is the end, I can't ever get started. But what I'm getting from you is that this is only going to help you. This is, more content doesn't mean that, you can't find your voice these days.
No, not at all. Like, don't be scared by any of these tools. Like, one of the things that, we literally teach anybody that comes to us is like, figure out how to leverage the tools to make you better. Like, don't be scared of it. Be like, how can I use this to make me better? Like, that's really the one thing that I always live by. It doesn't matter if it's AI or the next best, look at the rate of technology and the compound effect. This is not the end. Like, there's a lot more coming that we don't even see right now. So just think bigger.
Well, thank you so much, Rohan, for your time. We're going to post some links down below, guys, on how you can get in touch with Rohan and check out his projects and so forth on social and his website. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more amazing content. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's mariasparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.